Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about the 2021 Dutch horror film Hotel Poseidon, directed by Stef Lernous and released very under the radar. Does it suck or are you in luck? Stay tuned till the end to find out. Let's get into it.
Plot?
The plot is a confusing jumble of what the heck? Oh, that's gross and dang, I wonder if. There's not much in the way of a coherent narrative, story, or even structure to follow. There was a ton of subplots, but when it comes to the main plot, although I have some assumptions, I'm honestly not entirely sure what I was watching. What I am sure about though is that it was not a frightening movie. It was gross and gory in parts, but not necessarily scary. Not in the traditional sense anyway. Although I did laugh at the bizarreness of it all, it definitely wasn't a comedy either. I was very intrigued by trying to figure out what the heck was happening, but it wasn't formed as a mystery. It kind of felt like a whole movie of weird without a concrete, open and shut resolution by the end. Speaking of weird, let's talk about the
Characters?
The characters were some of the strangest, most confusing suckers I've ever seen. Kinda like they didn't make it into the vault before the nukes hit. They were rude, dirty, abrasive, immature, vile, and insufferable beings for the most part, and that includes our very lazy and fairly creepy protagonist named Dave. Dave seems to suffer from something, and may have some form of anxiety, but everyone's so outlandish that it's hard to say for sure. He doesn't have much to differentiate him from the rest of the characters though, besides more screen time and seemingly different psychological issues. There are numerous characters, but many seem as if their brain development has halted. Some were stuck acting like middle school children, others couldn't think past a step in front of them, some were overly violent, while others seemed incapable of realizing what violence even is. Those facts alone made them all random and sporadic individuals who were really hard to get a read on, and in turn, hard to really care about. They kept my attention, but they didn't keep my emotion, which left them feeling hollow.
Special effects and visual effects.
Now this is one department that I'm actually a big fan of here. The costume design was great, and it lended itself to the world building quite nicely by leaving a lot of the world outside of the hotel to the imagination. Each character looked unique, but they all had similarities, brought on by the situation that each one of them share. Spots, blemishes, and even the characters' complexions all give hints of the possible state of the world, but only if you're paying attention, and it's all up to interpretation. The gore also was done with decent practical effects, and although a bit much at times, didn't distract from the outlandish fever dream at hand. There were instances of CG, but the look suited the atmosphere and was used sparingly. I love the sets as well. They give us glimpses of the reality before us, but not enough to spoil the mystique surrounding it all. Definite props to everyone that worked on it. In
Conclusion.
Although not being a coherent A to B narrative with exciting set pieces and balls to the wall action, it did keep my interest just by being so bizarre. It felt psychedelic at times and always had something for me to ponder on. There were little hints scattered everywhere that kept me wanting more, but sadly at the end it did leave me with way more questions than it ever answered. All that being said, the question still remains: does Hotel Poseidon suck, or are you in luck? As unpopular as this may be, I think you may be in luck here, but only if you go in with a completely open mind. It isn't for everyone, so lower your expectations, and if you choose to do so, like this video to enter into the world of Hotel Poseidon. Thank you.